The one thing I'm having a struggle with is how to find the path of least resistance in general, but with a specific issue, but I have a hard time knowing what's right.
Well, if there's a lot of momentum going in the direction of unwanted, in other words, if you want it, but, sometimes it's a little harder to define what feels a little less. But really, think about what you're saying. You're saying, I cannot differentiate something that feels a little better from something that feels a little worse. And we don't believe that that's true. Kate played a game with Jerry and Esther when she was a little girl. She hit a button in a big room, and she knew where it was, and then she would guide them to find it by saying, you're getting colder, you're getting warmer, and your guidance system is doing the same thing with you. A better feeling means you're closer to it, and a not good feeling means you're further from it. Really, you can't differentiate? Path of least resistance is an easy concept. So what do you think is making this subject so difficult?
I get scared that the feeling is drawing me towards something that takes me away from something that I think that I want. I don't know if that was said very clearly. It was interesting to say you talked about dogs a lot, because dogs are kind of the issue in the relationship that I have with my partner. It's been a predominant thing that has stopped us from being together. And it's a relationship that I derive a lot of joy from, that I really enjoy. The dogs are something that consistently takes me away from my vortex. I know it's me taking myself away, but when it's being in my vortex is something that I kind of struggle with in general. I feel like these little entities are things that take me out very, very easily.
In what way?
Wow. They are...
They're too happy for you?
What? No, well... Yeah, well, that's actually funny you say that. One of them is incredibly... I try to create a very peaceful environment because I have a tendency to be a little anxious. And one of the dogs is like a very anxious entity.
The dog is picking up on the way you are feeling. But let us give you something. This will help you a lot. So focus for a moment on the idea of alignment, which means harmony between you and who you really are. And then hear these words which represent alignment. Happy, alignment. Satisfied, alignment. Love, alignment. Appreciation, alignment. Interesting, alignment. So alignment can mean a lot of different things, but alignment means harmony between you and you. So anxious is not harmony, and you can blame it on the dog if you want to. So what's happening, and we really love telling this to you, that little dog in particular is just reflecting the discord in your own vibration. And no one ever wants to hear about it. We are certain you're annoyed with us too. No one wants to hear about discord in their vibration. But really, that's what's going on.
Okay.
Tell us about the other dog.
The other dog seems like he's in shell shock a lot of the time. He's really sweet, really quiet. They're both fun. I don't dislike the dogs. They're fun dogs.
I understand.
He seems a little bit like that.
These dogs are going to teach you more than we ever will.
I wonder I thought that.
Because they're real to their alignment. And so tell us about the one that seems shell-shocked. How long have you been in the...
I've known these dogs for almost 3 years.
Yes. And so tell us about the second one.
The second one, he's a lot quieter. He kind of seems a little slower in intelligent ways. He doesn't seem as smart, maybe.
His desires are fewer.
Oh, for sure, his desires are fewer.
Since his desires are fewer, his frustration is less.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually.
And so what about the other little dog?
He has a lot of energy.
Because he's smart?
I think he needs to play more or something, but he has a lot of energy and a lot of, he's a character. I mean, he's a funny little dog, for sure. But he'll do naughty things a lot.
So we've heard about the first dog who has less desires and therefore less stress, and so is sort of happy to just kind of lay around, which makes him look tolerant. But really, it's not that he's more tolerant. He's just not contradicting his own desires so much, so he feels better more of the time. The second little dog has more that he wants that he's not getting, and so he pesters more. And then you're the third dog. And tell us about yourself. Are you more like the first dog or the second dog?
I'm more like the crazy dog. I'm more like the energetic dog, for sure.
And so you have the most to learn from that dog. So that's the dog that's reflecting back to you. Now, we know this sounds crazy, but in the spirit of we're all in this together, these dogs are part of the energy dynamic that you've got going on. So now tell us a little bit about how big a role this particular little dog you think is really playing in your upendedness. Playing a role or just reflecting back the discord that's already there?
A lot of his naughty behaviors were happening before I even knew this dog. When I met my partner, I saw the destruction that this dog had unleashed before I even stepped into the picture.
So what kind of destruction?
Couches being torn apart, linoleum being ripped off the floor. He pissed on my Roomba.
So what he's demonstrating to you is there are so many things I would like to think about, and I'm confined in this one small space.
I think so.
And this is what someone who has many things that they want to do, who for whatever reason is not being allowed to do them, does. So
that's what I would do, probably.
It's what you are doing. It's what you are doing to some extent.
In a different way.
In a different way.
Yeah.
So is there any way of giving this little dog more freedom?
I think so, yeah. It's going to take some time, but yeah.
More engagement? More satisfying opportunity to flow energy? We know it sounds odd that we are spending so much time talking about the behavior of this little dog, but we want you all to relate to it just a little bit. Because all of you, when you have desires that you are not allowing an outlet for, when the desire is strong, then the absence of the outlet just makes the desire stronger. This is what we said earlier when we said, if your desire is strong enough, it doesn't matter what your beliefs are. And that's why this dog is untrainable. That's why you can't say no enough. You can't discipline enough. Because the desire for more is so inherently powerful within this dog. Now, the other dog is easy to train because the other dog doesn't have those kind of powerful desires. And we really want to ask you, if these two dogs represent sort of the categories that most humans fall into. Those who finally just give up on their desires, and so the momentum of their desire is not encouraged, and so they just stay in a sort of complacent place. And those whose desires just keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, who feel the frustration, who have to find some way of breaking through in order to move toward what they want. Don't you love these little dogs and what they are explaining to you?
Yeah.
And so we have a question for all of you. Which dog would you rather be? Because most humans would say, well, I'd rather be the dog that's content. We say, no, you would not. That's not who you were born to be. The beasts of your planet are more like that, but you were born for life to give you continuing new desires that you intended fully with everything that you are to keep up to speed with, you see. And so you'll feel frustration too when you've got desires that you are depriving yourself of. Not just depriving yourself of having, as in letting the thoughts turn all the way to things, but depriving yourself of believing, depriving yourself of expecting, depriving yourself of finding harmony with, depriving yourself of the sweet spot of expectation, you see. So this little dog, this bothersome little dog, has not given up expectation, keeps finding a way to satisfy.
So my problem with finding the path of least resistance in this issue is that part of me thinks, well, this little dog is so frustrating to me that it's almost makes me feel a little confined. There's certain things we can't do in our relationship often because of this little dog. So therefore I wonder, is it confining me or is there a lesson here for me? I get really confused.
Yes, a lesson. We don't like lessons, but it's that. It's pointing out to you that feeling of entrapment. In other words, when this dog feels trapped, this is what this dog does. What do you do in your feeling of entrapment?
Oh, I get really anxious. Yeah, hugely anxious, actually, when I'm feeling trapped.
Yeah. We're surprised you're not gnawing on the linoleum.
There's a small section missing in the bathroom. But,
So what's the solution? In other words, we've gone a long way in helping you to understand what's going on. We want to demonstrate something here that is an extension of the train analogy that we already began, but we think that you will find some clarification in it. So you're living something that you don't want, and so it causes you to put an engine of desire on your train. But just the awareness that you're where you don't want to be on that issue causes you to put an engine of doubt on it at the same time. So right out of the gate, you're in what could be, if you were really sensitive, could be called a tense situation if you're sensitive. A lot of people aren't sensitive enough to notice that, like your first dog that you talked about, not sensitive enough to notice that. So then life goes on and something causes you to want something else. But instead of thinking about what you want, you notice where you are. And so, again, it's a stalemate. So then life causes you to put something more, but you focus on where you are. And so now the tension gets greater and greater because there's more calling. Now, we want to call your attention to your inner being, who every time you know what you don't want and you know what you do want, your inner being focuses profoundly on what you do want. And law of attraction is responding to your inner being. And so cooperative components are being gathered. So there's a lot of energy about what you do want that's being amassed, which means you have to work pretty consistently on thinking about what's not working in order to even hinder that at all. But humans are really good at that because you're focusing on outcomes more than you are the way you feel. You're taking score too soon rather than paying attention to how you feel. So what happens is you get all these trains stacked up. So the tension gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, which is what you're describing. And then usually something happens. Something happens where the tension is great enough that a very strong rocket of desire shoots out of you and puts about 20 new engines on this side of the track. And for a little while, you begin moving in that direction. And that's the time for you, when you begin to feel some movement, that's the time for you to acknowledge that there's less resistance and more desire. That's what you want to focus on. Those are the subjects that if you will focus on, then you'll get more momentum, and then you'll feel better and better and better about more things until there will be fewer and fewer issues that are holding you back. Now, we want to demonstrate in this example another way that you could have a more comfortable experience. You know what you don't want, which causes you to know what you do want. But they're equal because your knowing of what you don't want has caused this clarity of what you do want, but they're sort of equal in your experience. But now you're really wise. You say, because there's not much momentum, there's not a lot of resistant momentum, it's a new thought. So you feel the resistance, but you say to yourself, wait a minute, why do I want this? Why is this a good idea? What is it about this that appeals to me? In other words, you deliberately, in those early stages, think about what you want and why you want it, and you get more momentum, more momentum, more momentum, more momentum. So now you've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 engines just with a few minutes or even an hour or two of thinking about what you want, and there's so little resistance in it that now the momentum is carrying you, and now the momentum is carrying you, you stand in this new place where you begin to get ideas. And as you begin to get ideas, you get into that sweet spot, and your ideas begin manifesting, and now you stand in a whole new place. Now you have manifested something that you didn't want a lot, but you didn't resist at all, and now it has happened, and so you're different under the world. You stand in a different place with a different set of contrasting experiences, but now you're smarter because you've had that experience. So now, in your new place, things happen that cause you to know what you don't want and you know what you do want, but now you spend no time thinking about what you don't want because now you're onto the process. So now you think about what it is that you want and why you want it and how it would feel good and how it would enhance your experience and what is it about it that you like. And you get 4, 5, 6, 7 more engines going that way. So the resistance that you have is having no effect on you at all. And now, because the momentum is going and now you're more in vibrational alignment and the universe is organizing the cooperative components and you're watching things happen and you're starting to feel more powerful, and now you're in that sweet spot where things feel like they're working out for you, and now, boom, another manifestation. Really happened pretty fast. I'm really getting the hang of this, you think. And now you stand in a whole new set of contrasting experiences, because you will never not be in a set of contrasting experiences. But these are different now. They're different than the ones before. You are a different person responding to them. So now this contrast doesn't have much of a chance of dissuading you, because now you've got the rhythm. Now you feel like a powerful creator. Now you are understanding the power of your thought. Now you are utilizing your guidance system effectively. Now you're not going to let something take you into a direction that you don't want to be just because it exists. Now you are a deliberate creator.